Hi, babe. Welcome to the show. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so thankful for you having me on.
Thank you so much for coming on. I would love for you to introduce yourself to our listeners before we dive in.
Yeah. So, my name's Melissa Moffet. I am one of those coaches that does the things. Yeah, empowerment, leadership, money, business, all that good stuff, dream lifestyle, healing, awakening, that kind of vibe. And
Amazing.
that's what I do. Yeah, that's what I do.
Amazing. Beautiful. So, what I love about you and your essence and your energy and everything you're about is like, to me, you just come across as someone who's really real. You're like talking about serious business stuff, but you're also like kind of goofy and playful, and you're just you, and that radiates out of you. And I find that so magnetic. But I think for a lot of people, especially when you first start out in business, you think that you can't be all of you. You think you have to like polish yourself or tidy yourself up or be professional for your clients and position yourself as an expert. And I think a lot of coaches perpetuate that too. Business coaches, like you have to position yourself as this guru or this teacher. But I love that you're so successful and you're just clearly just being who you are. So have you always been like that, or was that like a permission slip that you had to give yourself? I would love to hear the journey to being you.
Oh my gosh. This is such a good question. There's so many answers that are popping into my head. So really the permission slip in the story kind of takes me back to when I was a teenager, right? Because I wasn't always this open. I'm very open now. I'm very like I will say just about anything on social media, in my classes, all that kind of stuff. But I was actually diagnosed and medicated for social anxiety from the time I was 16 until I was 21. And it was very hard for me to be open with people, to be myself. I was like terrified of people, terrified of talking, of using my voice. So the answer to the question, have I always been this way? Heck no. And it's really helpful to have gone through that experience, because now, when I have clients come to me and they say, I'm afraid to share myself, I'm afraid to talk about myself, I'm afraid to like be myself, because I've been through this process, I can help them with that, right? And it's so important. Of course, we don't have to like suddenly break our all of our walls down so that we're like extremely uncomfortable, and then we have some sort of like contraction, and like you see people kind of when they're getting started, they'll do one extremely vulnerable post and they won't post for like another month or two
Yeah.
because it's like, oh shit, like that was a lot.
Yeah.
So we want to start like slowly cracking away at the layers, over time, little by little, letting ourselves be seen, getting more comfortable feeling seen, being more comfortable with who we are both in our lives, expressing ourselves with our partners, being open and dressing the way we want to, meeting, female friends, and healing that sisterhood wound, all of that kind of stuff in our lives. And then that translates to, social media and our businesses, all of that kind of thing too. But it's so important because naturally, as you have experience and as you start to have, create your lifestyle and create your business, people nowadays, like, they're not looking for some robot to work with. It's not like they're going into the grocery store just to get something out of a bag that's in a nice container. Like, they want to know you, they want to know who you are, and want who you are, and they want permission to be all of who they are too.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that you shared that as well. And isn't it so interesting how when you go through a struggle, particularly if you're in the public eye or you have like a platform, in the moment, it can be so easy to think, oh my goodness, I've got to hide this. This is the worst thing about me right now. If I let anyone know that this is happening, it's going to discredit me. But like, as you shared, that really difficult thing that you went through makes you more relatable now, because you're not just someone who's always been super confident and social and extroverted, but you've cultivated that. So you've shown people like it's possible to build it and cultivate it. But it's like the things that we want to deny that are usually these gateways to medicine, particularly as coaches and space holders. And I just think it's really encouraging for anyone listening, because it's very easy to fall in that hole, and thinking like that you want to avoid what you're going through, but what you're going through is usually going to lead you to something really powerful, I feel.
Yeah. So I grew my social media to about about 40,000 people before I ever had a business. And I grew it by being really vulnerable and just sharing stories and sharing little bits of wisdom that I was gaining from my own healing process and my own growth journey and my own life experiences, and by taking lots of photos. But and then once I started a business, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I felt like I did feel this bit of a veil come over that was like, oh, now you have to be this leader. Now you have to be this person, the strong person, the one who's like, life is so good. You know what I mean? But it's been really incredible to work with that. And there's this amazing thing that I experienced now. I just had it happen yesterday, actually, where it's like when I let whatever that medicine that's coming through in my life, the experience. So if I'm sad that day, if I'm, going through some sort of deep healing, I had a good dark night of the soul over this past winter, so I was sharing a lot from that place. And people were like, when I would share from that place, but from a place of empowerment, from a place of like, what's the learning here? What's the lesson? Like not like I'm sad, I'm a victim, but like, here's something that's good from this, then people were like, can I sign up for your class? Can I work with you? Like, oh my gosh, like me too. That resonates. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
people, we're full spectrums. You know what I mean? Like, yes, people love like seeing the lifestyle and the house and the money and like all that fun stuff. But people also want to know that sometimes I had a really, intense therapy session and I laid on my couch for like the next 24 hours. And and I'm still a badass, and that's okay. And like,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. And
Thank you. You too.
yeah. Thank you, babe. Yeah, it's so counterintuitive though, isn't it? To like the ego, the inner critic. It's like, it's so easy to think, if I share this thing, then will the people that want to be led by me still see me as credible? But actually, like in my experience, it's like they see you as more credible, because they see you as being honest. They see you as like a whole ass human being with all the stuff, and you get to have both. You get to have the abundance and the fancy stuff and the riches and the happiness, but there's also very human experiences that we all go through. And what I want to lead into from that is that I know last year, like 2020, you had this incredible year. I think you 5 times your business, your revenue. Did you buy your house last year as well? Like, a lot of magical things happened for you in 2020. And that was the same for me. And so it's really interesting, because last year was a really hard year for a lot of people, right? And it's very easy, I think, for when you're in business to fall prey to stories of other people of like, oh, the economy's bad, or you can't start a business because the moment's not right, or, all of these narratives that go on. But I love that you've been doing some really deep healing. You've created all of this success in this seemingly impossible time to create success. Can you tell us more about what happened for you in 2020 and what it taught
Yeah.
you about writing your own rules for business and success.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Oh, 2020 was so much in like so many ways. Yeah. So at the beginning of 2020, so I started my business in 2019, was my first full year. And I made like $55,000 that year total revenue. And then I moved into, 2020, and just a few months before, I had moved from Tennessee to Boulder after living at home for a year, quitting my job before that. And my business actually took off when COVID happened. And what happened was I was about to do a course launch for a course that's like over $1,000 that in March. And we all, like, when that happened and people were losing their jobs and getting laid off and all of this kind of stuff, I think everyone who was running a business had this thought of like, how the hell do I sell in this kind of environment? How do I create? How do I market shit? Like, this is a lot. And I had that thought too. And I felt frozen for about a week. And then, and this has been one of the biggest lessons, I was like, what do I actually need to do right now? What would be the most beneficial and helpful for this environment, for the people who are having the experiences that I'm seeing right now? And instead of launching that $1,000 course, I launched an offer that was $100. And it was centered around and designed to, it's called Healthy Habits Bundle. It's, how to take care of yourself, especially like if you're at home and you're just like you don't know how to like manage your alone time, that like I'm good at being alone. I live in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. I'm from a super rural area. I'm really good at it at this point. So I was like, okay, I'll just create a course around that. And I sold a shit ton. And so that month, I think my revenue's 3x'd. And then the next month it like doubled. And then the next month it like doubled again. It was just like, and I just kept asking those questions of like, what's coming through me? And like, how can I meet this moment? How can I meet these people? What do I want to create? And really trusting that what I was doing was of service and was good and was helping people. And then as I started teaching more and more business, it was the same thing happening. Because of the environment, so many people were wanting to take their skills. People have been laid off from their jobs. People were like, now's the time that I'm going in. I've realized that life is uncertain, that my time is, limited, that the things I thought were stable aren't actually that stable. And so because all of that was happening, then people were coming to me and like, I was teaching them about money. I was teaching them about business, and it just took off. But that being said, all of that sounds amazing, right? Like, yay, I just thought about how to serve people and how to have fun and how to create from the heart. And I just made a shit ton of money. Like, that sounds great, right? But like, there was also so many lessons during that time of letting go of, people, of, things that I thought were stable, of leadership initiations, all of this kind of stuff. And yeah, and it just kept growing. And in August, my partner and we decided to buy a house together. So we'd been together about 10 months at that point, and we just went for it, and we found like, our perfect little dream home. And yeah, we bought the house, and that came together in this really wild way. And yeah, and that was the year. Winter, I went into a little bit of a cocoon. I needed a little more healing time, so it was a bit slower for me. But I feel spring coming, and I'm like, everything's like, oh, okay, like we're coming out of this,
Yeah. I love that you mentioned the seasons, because I think there can be this trend, whether we're conscious to it or not, of like needing to always be growing and compounding on the month before. in business. And my business is definitely not like that at all. I go like through these almost like crazy peaks and then like nothing for a month or two. And then it comes again. And if I was just looking at the business through like a really linear lens, which is totally easy to do because that's our culture, right? It could be like, oh my God, February, there's no sales. What's going on? What am I doing wrong? But I love that you said that you had these like moments and seasons of healing. And I think that would be really interesting to talk about how like there's these ebbs and flows in business. And also I know something you love to talk about is like the inner work creates the outer success. So how necessary have those moments of healing and shadow work been for those really abundant months of your business?
Yeah, man, you did your homework, didn't you? That's something I say all the time. Your inner work equals your outer experience. Yeah. So, oh gosh, this is such a good question. So yeah, it's totally normal. My partner actually gave me a really great reframe for this because I went through like 6 months of it just like growing. And then it kind of, my word was plateaued, right? It plateaued and it just kind of like, it stayed like in the same, you know, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Spectrum. I don't know. It stayed in like the same region, monthly revenue, even though like with different offers and all, it just kind of like stayed there. And I was like, what is happening? You know what I mean? I was like, what is going on? And we were talking about it one day and he was like, maybe you haven't plateaued. Maybe you're just like stabilizing, you know, you just grew so much. Maybe you're just integrating, you know, you're just here and this is your time. And it was great because once I accepted it, it was beautiful. I didn't work as much the past couple months and I was able to I've done a lot of healing in the past few months. Like some of my old stuff was coming back up. So I went back into therapy. I started going to acupuncture, to an herbalist. Like I was really deep in my practices the last couple months. And that's so important. It's so important, right? And in terms of the inner work, creating, and well, one thing I want to talk a little more about the ebbs and flows in the business. It's so normal. It's so normal. It's so normal. But for some reason, when it happens to us, when we hit that ebb, we're like, what is happening? Oh my God, like, is it never going to grow? We get all these like crazy, wild thoughts that don't even, that aren't true, right? So I think growing a business and running a business, once you're in it for a while, you start to see those patterns and that natural ebb and flow. And it's just a practice in trust, just more and more and more trust, and knowing that you are where you are and what's coming up is what's coming up. And it's also a practice in gratitude too, because especially for people like us who have gotten to this point, once your business is at this point where you're like supporting yourself, and then you start to go into overflow and all of this kind of stuff, wanting more for the sake of wanting more is like, it can wear you out if you're pushing too hard. But if you're trusting, and if you can lean back and be so grateful for what you have, but still know like the time is coming where that flow will come again, then you can gracefully move through it. And sometimes those ebbs and flows, there can be a few within a single day, right? And this is where detachment comes in, because maybe we haven't had a sale in a few days and we're starting to get hard on ourselves and we're wondering, will my launch ever pick up again, or whatever it is. And then we get that sale and we're like, yes, oh my gosh, I'm the best, everything's great, I made money, right? And it's like we're getting addicted to that process. So if we can instead like step back and like see big picture vision, where am I going long term? How am I growing long term? Not just in this period of ebb, or in this period of flow, in this period of more of a drought season, or more of a like making a shit ton of money season. Like if you can look big picture and stay connected to the heart of it, then like when you're really connected to that why you're actually doing it, and like it really being your life's work and your life's mission, then the way I see it is like there's no way you're not going to grow again. There's
Yeah.
no way. In one way or another. Like there's no way. If you stay committed and you keep believing and you keep being like, okay, I'm going through this period, I'm going through this period, then it does naturally start to flow again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in terms of the inner work, I mean, oh, it's everything. Because nowadays, you know, we are creating businesses that we love, that feel good. But if you're constantly looking outside of yourself, being like, okay, what do I need to do? What's she doing? What's her price? Like, what's her structure? And I did that for a while. You know what I mean? I made those mistakes of trying to make my business like someone else's, where when I would look inward and be like, what do I actually want? How do I want my lifestyle to be? How much free time do I want? What price feels good to me? And ask myself these questions and get really clear. The business that's going to work best, and the business, it is the business that feels best, that is, sustainable for your energy, that is incorporated well into your lifestyle. And that takes looking within and asking, what pieces are not feeling good right now? How can I clean those up? How can I set better boundaries? What pieces do I love? How can I lean into those more? How can I commit, more of my energy to that?
Mm.
And then that momentum ball just keeps going and going and going. We become more effective with less time, spent in
Yeah.
our businesses. We make more money with less energy, less time, more ease.
Yeah. Yeah. And that creates the ripple of magic to everyone else because, yeah, I've been in containers before, unfortunately, where you can feel that the person who's run it has like run it for the sake of like the launch and they've already like checked out before they're there, which is super disappointing. And even though they're showing up for the call and they're there, you can tell, like you can feel that lack of engagement there. Whereas like I've been in other containers where it's like, that person is so excited that you're there. They're so excited for the work. They deeply embody it, believe it, and you feel it. And it's a totally different experience. But we can't create that if we're not self-aware and we're not, like you said, like finding what's the piece that feels so good and so alive for me, and how do I leverage that to serve people, to help people. So I really feel you on that. Something else I want to talk to you about, like I know you have a program called Worthy, and I want to talk about the link between our worthiness and money, business, prosperity. Like, I think sometimes people just compartmentalize. They think business and then that stuff can come later, right? I'll feel worthy when I make that money or I get those clients. And I obviously believe they're totally intertwined, but I would love to hear you share your thoughts on the link between these pieces.
Right. So Worthy was my first endeavor in business. And I still run that course, and I still love that course and love everyone who is in it and who's ever taken it. And I created that course because I didn't feel worthy, because there was a part of me that was wanting to teach these classes, teach these courses. And I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel old enough, educated enough, far enough along in my growth journey. And I co-led a retreat in Colombia, and we did this, breath work session. And two things dropped in during that session. It was, one, you're moving to Boulder, Colorado. I was like, never been there, but okay. Two, you're opening a course and it's called Worthy. And I was like, okay. And I had the course open within a week of me getting back from Colombia. And I learned so much through running that program, right? And what happens in anything, oh my gosh, in business, with money, in our relationships, is we have so many stories and so much programming, and we come into this world worthy. All of us do, right? Like, there's so many layers to this, but because of things that we experience, and also because of, systemic things, oppressive forces, racism, discrepancies in how people are treated and paid, we start to believe differently. So when we have the opportunity to start to lean into creating more freedom for ourselves through finances, through business, through time, but also through that inner freedom, right? That inner work, we can come up against, who am I to do this? One of my big worthiness things that came up about a year ago, and I was like, whoa, was that I couldn't have both love and money. My partner and I, it was around Christmas, and we were having a movie-a-thon, and we were laying in bed just watching movies. And I had been, up until that point, we were still pretty new, I was really scared to talk about my business and my ambition in front of him. It felt very uncomfortable. And I realized that it just dropped in that, like, I had had a breakup when I started my business. And part of the reason was because I was quitting my job, my stable job, to start an unstable business. Now it's very stable and very successful, right? But like, at the time, he was like, what are you doing? And then the same thing, my parents, my dad worked all the time. He basically worked himself into a heart attack. My parents got divorced, all that kind of stuff. So I realized, and once I kind of realized that was what was happening, it made so much sense. But up until that point, I hadn't even realized. So we have all these stories. We also have, another thing that can happen is our nervous system can literally not feel safe to want things and to receive things. If we've been through any sort of experience that has created, a fight or flight or freeze response in our bodies, and we're carrying that, this is why the healing is so important. I had, just a couple weeks ago, I had the most intense moon of my life. It was so painful. And the message that I received from my womb was like, we are clearing out your system, and you're going to feel so much more relaxed, and you've never felt safe to actually want what it is you want. And so that's where the clearing comes in, the shadow work, because the worthiness is going to be naturally there. It's not something like we have to layer on these affirmations again and again. Yes, we can use affirmations. Yes, we can look in the mirror and be like, you are a badass, you're a queen, like you're it, you're amazing, but like, we have to have the space for that to land. Another thing that I want to say that's very important to this conversation too, is that a lot of people in my audience, and a lot of people, who have these, opportunities to go into online business, to create financial freedom for themselves, have a lot of privilege in the world, right? So people who have time, maybe people who have some sort of, at least a bit in their savings account, it's harder to do this when you're working 3 jobs and, barely able to, make your rent, and there's not, you're not in the back of your head, when your parents pass away, you're going to like inherit money and you'll be fine, right? It's like, there's a lot more pressure there, and you're a lot closer to that survival than you are to the thriving part. So I have a lot of people come to me, because I have a lot of really aware, compassionate people, and they say, who am I to like make money this easily? When so many people are suffering. There are people, basically enslaved around the world, getting paid basically nothing to make, shitty clothes and all of this kind of stuff, right? And I'm like, okay, my perspective on that is, if you limit yourself, if you don't claim this freedom, based on your guilt, how is that going to help people? How is
Yeah.
that actually going to help them? Where, if you can use, like, the guilt is the shadow side of your compassion. So if you can claim your power and rise up and become independent with your time and financially free, think of what you can do with your money. It's not like you're going to suddenly, if you care about all of these things, it's not like you're going to suddenly want like 12,000 shirts that, you know,
Yeah.
basically slaves made in Bangladesh in a terrible working condition, right? Like that's probably not what you're going to do. Instead, you're going to start focusing on how can I spend my money, cultivating the, maybe like my local ecosystem, the planet, supporting sustainable fashion, supporting sustainable housing, supporting, organizations that are doing good work around the world. Naturally, when you go into overflow, and not just with your money, but also with your time
Yeah.
and with your words and with your platform too. So you can start, as you become more powerful and more abundant and have more to give, you can then give more, and you can start steering that this ship of collective mother earth human race, all the beings, in a direction that is more abundant for all, more equal for all, more supportive for all, more in harmony for the environment and the animals. And so I say, let's get rich and let's do good things together.
Yeah. Hell yeah. I mean, I think there's like that preconception there for a lot of people with a guilt piece that if I have more money, then isn't that selfish, right? But it's like, it's actually the most selfless thing you could do, because if you've got this kind heart and you genuinely care, which is why you're asking the question in the first place, like you said, you're going to have not only more money, but you have more time and freedom as well. And like, that's the currency that we're always running out of, isn't it? Like time. Like, there's so
Mm-hmm.
many things in the world that I want to care about, but I actually have to just like not even look at sometimes, because I'm like, I would spend 24 hours a day in a trauma response, so concerned about the planet and people and all of these horrific things that are happening. So like when you have more time, you can spend it more intentionally rather than just surviving and feeling guilty. So I love that you shared that so much. Thank you. Um, and the other thing that I really want to talk to you about, because I think it's super interesting, I'm really inspired by this. You just changed your mind on something that you were launching. I think you were like in the middle of the launch. Was it called Abundance Queen Codes, right?
Yeah.
And it was like, it looked really cool. And then I just saw this post. I think you're like doing something sultry in the desert, and you're like, I changed my mind. And I love it. And I think that this is radical for a lot of people. So I want us to talk about it because it's going to give so many people great permission. In the coaching industry, there's always a lot of talk about integrity, right? Which I do think is important. But I,
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like it can get distorted to the point where it's like, if you said you would do this one time, you must do it forever, and you must follow through even when it's not right. And so I love that you gave yourself permission to change your mind on what was right. Can you tell us the story and like how you got to
Yeah.
this place?
I love that you brought up integrity. I'll get into that. Yeah, I'll get into that. So I actually did this a few months ago too. I had a master class coming out called, I did this whole thing when like 2021 started, where I was like, hashtag no rules 2021. Let's go. Like everything works, nothing matters. Like we're just doing it. Like you can do whatever you want, it's gonna work. You know what I mean? Like just be you. Everything's happening. Like that's what I was feeling. And so I was gonna teach this master class around it. And I opened it up like a week early, and I got like 2 days in, and people were signing up and all this stuff. And then I was just like, whoa, you're tired. You know what I mean? Like it just hit me that I was tired. I was
Mm,
tired. You know what I mean? I had been like cranking stuff out, doing stuff. And and it was fun, right? You know what I mean? Like, I'm very like, let's go. Like, I can launch, I can like do calls, like I can just go, you know what I mean? And it also hit me that I wanted to go home. So I hadn't seen my family in over a year. I was just really wanting to see them. So I was like, I just wiped the slate clean, and everything I thought I was going to do, I instead was like, okay, how can I make this next month as easy as possible? And I canceled that masterclass, and I went on and I did a story about it. And so many people messaged me, and I was just like, I just, I don't feel like doing it. Like, I'm tired. I don't want to burn out, and I'm going to refund those who came, and we're just not going to do it. And they were like, that was the No Rules Masterclass. Like, that story thread, like, that was it. That was it. That's all we need to know. Great. Awesome. Thank you. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, the same thing came up again. And because I had just done that, I had those thoughts. So I had it open for a week. You know, people were signing up. Everything was fine. But it, like, something felt off. It didn't feel as in flow as I wanted it to. And I kept going through and being like, what is out of alignment with this? What is out of alignment with this? And for the first few days, like, there's nothing out of alignment with this. And then I had a couple of things happen in my personal life, good things, but that I wanted to be present for, that I can't share yet, but I will share soon in the next few weeks. But I was like, okay, maybe this is why it's been feeling off, because like, you're actually being asked to be more present for these next few weeks. And then it also hit me that, like, when I thought of doing an event, I actually wanted to do an event with guest speakers. Like, I wanted to actually make like a business conference, you know, where like I'm teaching some stuff, but then there's like these amazing guest speakers who come in and teach, and it's like this like actual like community event. And I was like, I want to do that, but I need more than a week if I'm going to do that. So I was just like, okay, I'm doing it next month. And again, I was so nervous because the thoughts coming up in my head, well, you just canceled something. Are people going to think you're just canceling everything and you're wishy-washy? And the second thought was like, what about integrity? What about integrity? You know? And what I realized was it would have been out of integrity. It would have been out of integrity for me to teach it when I said I was initially going to, when I knew it wasn't actually how I wanted it to be and the best it could be. What was the most, integrity is a spectrum. There's not black or white.
Yeah.
And I felt into it, and I was like, is the word integrous? Is that right? Integrous?
I've definitely Googled, is that a word before? I think it came up. I don't know.
I think so. You all get it. It's fine. It's fine. Also, part of my brand is I'm slightly dyslexic, so sometimes words are hard, but it's great because I have clients come to me and I'm like, I have typos all the time and like mess up my words all the time, and it's fine. Like, and I'm like a public speaker and like writer, like that's what I do with my life. But yeah, I felt into it, and I was like, it feels more in integrity for me to push it back and to make it even like 12 times as good as if I was doing it alone.
Yeah.
And when I was nervous, and I went on and I did this story about it, and I made a post too, right? But I first did a story, and I was like, I was just transparent. I was like, I'm nervous to say this, you know, like, but this is what I feel to be true. And number one, as I was doing that story, I got like ridiculous, like, I mean, like, it was like I was recording it and suddenly like a big payment just popped up in PayPal. You know what I mean? Like, someone signed up for something that was like a couple grand, and I was just like, okay, that's a sign of alignment. Like, that's fine. I'll take that. And then the next thing was, I had so many messages from people who were like, oh my gosh, like, it's going to be so good. I'm so excited. Like, oh, I couldn't come this time, but now like I'll be able to come. And like, I truly believe that what's truly best for us is, and again, best is, there's a spectrum here. It's not like this is best and this is worse, but like, the more we can do good from our hearts and for our bodies, for ourselves, the more it's naturally going to be good for other people. So, things that are aligned with our integrity, things that are aligned with our values, things that are aligned with the things that we know that are helpful, right, from our experiences. And I've seen this with, I've like canceled or postponed or rescheduled clients before, and they've come back to me and been like, oh my gosh, this is like a better time anyway, like that kind of thing. And yeah. And it was fine. And nobody was like, you're a dumb bitch who can't handle your business and life. Like, it was fine. People are actually excited about it. And I'm excited about it too, because the guest speakers are going to be like freaking awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's amazing. I think there's like you said, a spectrum, and like there's a difference if you're just moving things all the time because you just can't be bothered and you're just in your shadow all the time. Like there's obviously like a line with it, because I know some people who are super organized will probably be like, I could never do that. There's like a line between that and the wishy-washy vibe that you mentioned versus like integrity with your heart and soul. And I know like I have showed up and done things before when I've known in my heart that like I'm not really feeling this, not that I don't believe in the teachings, but it doesn't feel like the way or the moment that I want to deliver it. And I follow through. And it's like never as amazing as when I like do something that I'm dying to do. And I'm like, yes, this is it. This is the vibe. And like people feel that, they reciprocate. So it's like, there is a piece of, like you said, like if you do what's really good for you, it will be good for others too. There will be people who love to receive it the way that you want to deliver it. But you got to give yourself that permission, don't you?
Yeah. And like you said, it like there is a level of like, yes, we want to be true to our word. We want to be, if we say we're going to do something, we want to do it. We want to be really clean and clear with our energy, but we can't get too fixated on what that looks like, because it's not always, it doesn't always mean sticking with the initial plan. Sometimes it means changing the plans. And that's the way to keep your energy clean. And you'll know. And it's a trial and error process, because I've done that too, where it's been like just forcing something to work, and then you're like, oh, this is a lesson.
Yeah, totally. I had a recent launch, and like all the things that we've said today happened inside of this launch. Like it was slow, and then a few people signed up, and then there was like no one for ages, and I felt really vulnerable. And so then I shared that I was feeling like a loser, and then all these people signed up when I shared the thing that I didn't want to share. And in that launch as well, like my marketing team had created this whole strategy, like these emails that we are going to send and this workshop I was going to do. And then I ended up just going, no, I know that I've paid for this. I know that this probably is strategically the exact thing that everyone thinks I need to do. But I was like, I'm not feeling it. So I didn't do any of it. And it was the biggest, most abundant launch I've ever had in my life. It doesn't make any sense to the logical brain, but that's why I'm resonating so much with what you're saying, because I've like felt it in my own experience as well. So it's really refreshing to hear your experiences as well, because it's very easy to think, I think, in this world of business and coaching, that there's only like certain ways of doing things, when really like there's a million ways to do everything.
Yeah. And that goes back to the thing of like, what's going to work best is the way that it works best for you, and you're going to draw in people who resonate with that. And that's why there can be all of these business coaches and coaches in general, and they resonate with different people, like I've had people come to me. One of my favorites, someone in my mastermind right now that's actually about to end in the next 3 weeks, but they we talked a little bit, and then they were like, I'm going to sign up. And they said, do you want to know what it was that made me like a hell yes? And I was like, what? And they said, I scrolled back through timeline, and this had been months before, and I just posted this video of me like dancing with my dog to Dua Lipa. And they were like, that's how I knew. So it wasn't like, yeah, Melissa's like a baller, like Melissa's making this money, like Melissa's gonna like show me how to run my business. It was like, she looks fun. You know, like it can be like, we get so narrow-minded and start to think, and I was an engineer, right? So like I can do this really well, right? Thinking, well, this leads to this, and if I do this, then this will happen, and this will do this, and chain reaction, and like if I talk to this person this way and say these words in this exact order, then like this is going to be the exact outcome. And that is like, oh my God, that is a waste of so much energy, because when we just start to like be natural, be more natural, like be ourselves and like let our business unfold. And that doesn't mean like I have a general idea. I plan for the future, you know what I mean? Like I love a spreadsheet. I love a spreadsheet. I love it. You know what I mean? Like I'm all about the organization and the structure. But when we also have that balance with the flow and with like the trust and the unfolding, magic can happen. You know, when we're so narrow and we're thinking this has to happen and then this and this and this, it closes off the magic, the people coming in and being like, let me send you money, the amazing ideas, the networking, the connections, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Miracles can't be calculated, can
Beautiful.
they? That you can't find them on that spreadsheet, babe.
I know, I've tried. But they come though. They come, you know what I mean? They just show
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They arrive when you trust.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So what do you have coming up that our listeners need to know about? When's your bougie conference?
Bougie conference. I haven't set an official date yet. I'm still talking to the guest speakers, so I want to like lock them in before I like announce everything again. So
Yeah.
it'll be either end of April or early May.
Cool.
Probably early May. It'll be called Abundance Queen, so you all can look out for it. But other things, I actually am doing quite a bit right now. So I'm the kind of person who can like run things all at the same time, but I still only work like, I really don't work that much relative to like how much I'm doing. So the things that are coming up are, when will this be released? Do you know?
Yeah, I'm gonna release it like ASAP. So like in
Oh,
maybe this week or
great.
next week. So
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So yeah, then the things I would share, the you know, for a lot of these people, they're more on the business side, right? So if you're more of a newbie, I created a mastermind for newbies. It's 6 weeks. So these are for people, maybe you haven't quite started yet, or maybe you're at that point where you're around like 4K, 5K kind of months, but you're wanting to like grow and make it really legitimate. And it's called Integrate and Up Level 6-week mastermind. It's going to be really great. I'm going to be opening a higher level mastermind soon. I haven't announced the name yet, but I'll announce it here. It's called Open. And this will be like a longer term 6-month mastermind for people who are going, you know, more towards like multiple 6 figures. And then I'll also share, I still do a lot of work around like healing and you know, more of the being side. So I'm opening a very, very intimate container. So there's just a few people in there, and I'm just letting in a few more people. And it's called Metamorphosis. And it's for people who are either going through or just went through a dark night of the soul. It was really inspired by my dark night of the soul. So I have a lot of people coming in who, you know, maybe they're going through a divorce, or maybe, you know, they, you know, like someone lost a child, someone had an abortion, like these like deep, heavy things that people are processing. And we're going to do it in a safe space together. So those are the main things that are coming up. Yeah. And then who knows what else. I like to just kind of like make things up as I go along.
I love that. I'm the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, what are
Sometimes
you
we do like a
launching this
master
year?
class or
Yeah. What are you launching this year?
it's
What
like,
do you
I don't
launch
know.
calendar? My marketing team's like, when are you going to launch this? I'm like, I'm still talking to God. I'll let you know. They're like, what?
It hasn't dropped in yet. I'll let
Yeah.
you know when it lands.
Yeah. They're like, any idea roughly when it's going to land? Like, these are the conversations. I'm like, look, I don't know. It could be like in the next 30 seconds or in like a year.
Yeah. It's not up to me actually. So
Totally. Babe, thank you so much for coming on the show today. What's your Instagram handle so everyone can come and find you?
yeah, it's at Melissa with a period and then Moffet, Moffet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Amazing.
really love, so one thing I want to say is I really love connecting with people. So feel free to send me, a direct message. I love like connecting in that way because it can be, there's a lot of people floating around. So feel free to send me a message.
Yeah. So you'll know that they're one of the good eggs and not one of the just like randoms that follow you on Instagram.
Oh my gosh. This is like a side note, but I did a reel recently where I looked real cute. Real cute. Haha. But anyway, and it it like went viral and got like 110,000 views, and I got a lot of followers from it, but they were all like men in their like 50s, and I was like, y'all know I am quick with the block button. If you say anything to me, I will block you so fast. But yeah, but I like the good ones.
I remove people all the time. I'm just like,
Yeah.
you don't need to be following me, like random
Yeah.
man from somewhere that,
No,
yeah.
you're not my ideal audience. No, thank you.
No, you don't need to be like consuming my sensual reels.
Yeah, yeah. And then like they come on my like I was like, do you want to hear about like decoration plans? And they're like, no, just show us dancing photos. And I'm like, please go.
You're like, get off my pole. Get off my pole.
Go away. You're messing up the percentage.
Oh, well. Thank
So
you,
funny.
love, so much. I hope you have a beautiful day. And everyone listening, definitely go check out Melissa because you'll love her like I do. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.